Greetings, gamers. Tim here again. After a little bit of deferializing my face and the hair on top of my head so I don't look quite like the barbarian I was headed to be. Today is, of course, August 25th. We're almost done with RPGADAY. We only have a handful of days left. A little less than a week at this point. And, well, today's kicker is, what is the best way to thank your GM? I GM a lot of games. I GM a lot of games. I am not very often a player in games, but to thank my GMs for me is quite often asking them to run more games. That's a good way. It tells them that you have faith in them. But here's the simplest way. The absolute most basic thing you can do is say, I had fun. Thank you. That's it. It's a simple communication, an expression of gratitude, and gamers who tend to be a talkative lot, not always, but tend, we seem to have trouble sometimes expressing ourselves in such a simple way. Just say thank you. Or if you think that the GM was terrible and you don't want to play their particular game style anymore, excuse yourself. Say, I'm sorry, I did not have fun with this. Is there something we can change? Either game system or something you're more comfortable with running? Because it wasn't, as fun for me as it seemed to be for everyone else, or it didn't seem to be fun for any of us. And I have honestly had players who, playing a game that was just a one-shot drop-in, that almost had me on the floor rolling with laughter over their antics. And that is a great thank you, too. Even if it's not a funny moment, any kind of emotional response that is positive is a good thing to share. Fortunately, the game we were playing was Marvel, MSH Phase Rip, and so they got karma rather a lot that night because they were having fun with it. They were just, it was silly. It was a setup game. It was just because one of our players couldn't make it to our regular game, and another one, a teenage boy, who is the son of one of our people who does Game Master from time to time. And he basically didn't show up because he was out doing things with his teenage friends, which is fine because, who wants to sit around the table with your dad and a bunch of other old guys? But he does enjoy role-playing. He wants to be involved. So, we involve him when he seems interested, and he was interested, but that night he chose to do things with friends. Life happens. And another player couldn't make it, and it was, let's just do something, whatever, off the cuff. Don't worry too much about it, and play that and see where it goes. And we did. We rolled up random characters, and we played those random characters. I did give them some options, like, here you have this power and that power. I suggest you also take this power from this category that you rolled, because we just rolled categories, and then I let them pick from those categories what they liked and, trade off a little bit. So I ended up with a character with burrowing, which is not something a lot of people take, and normally would not, care for if they rolled it. But this person was happy to take burrowing, and he used it very effectively. And the other person decided the fact, even though he is a mutant human and is rolled up as a mutant human, he was going to be a raccoon person. I don't know why he chose to be a raccoon person. I think Guardians of the Galaxy had a little too much influence on him. But, whatever. He didn't necessarily roll up being a raccoon. He just rolled a mutant human. And, that's fine. If he wants to look like a raccoon, I'm not going to say no. Because this wasn't meant to be, serious or dire or, it wasn't going to be a gritty game. And things fell apart when he got called in to go to work and he didn't know where to go. So he ended up driving around in circles because they'd basically been placed in a prison camp and partially mind-wiped. Obviously, they knew something was wrong because everybody acted very 1950s as Happy. Kind of the picture-perfect Happy you expect the 1950s to look like. Through a certain fictional lens that was never really there. But it's a veneer, and they knew it was a veneer. So they're trying to investigate, and he's driving around, and somebody tells the police officer that it looks like such and such got lost on the roundabout again. So the police officer pulls him over and says, "Are you all right? Have you been drinking? Do I need to help you out here and get you home?" And he goes, "No, I had to go to work and I had to leave my redheaded wife at home." And this is the raccoon, and he made the game hilarious. And that's a big thank you to me, to laugh, to enjoy the game so much. And I have had friends playing games they enjoyed so much that they paid for and commissioned character art for that game. It wasn't one of my games. It was a game somebody else ran, but they enjoyed it, and they enjoyed it enough to have character art commissioned. And that's another way to do so, is to have something, artistic done. Even if it's for you, share it with your GM and say, "I had this made because of your game," or "I drew this," if you're an artist, because of your game. This inspired me. That is all the ways, among many others, that you can thank someone. It's, showing interest, saying thank you, giving them your gratitude. There are a lot of things I could add to that. Invite them out for a meal, hang out with them, other times, not just when you're gaming. But I usually game with people I consider my friends. And while I don't mind hanging out with them, when we're not gaming, and if we want to do something else, like watch a movie or something, I'm usually good for that. Although sometimes it's easier for me to schedule than others because I have a dog that's anxiety prone. So I don't always get the freedom to do everything I would like to. Because who's going to take care of her? It falls to me to take care of the dog with the sharp claws. I do not know how Cat got in her DNA, but my dog just has these claws. Tiny, pointy claws, and her feet are small for her body. Whoever bred this breed of dog apparently thought small feet made good climbing. And sharp claws made good climbing. Or it could just be that fundamentally she's a weirdo because she was the runt of the litter and just, genetically got all of the errors that she could. But I don't know. All I know is that, the best way to thank your GM is to say thank you. And there are other things you can do, like you would do for anybody else to thank them. As I said, take them out for a meal, watch them, take them to a movie maybe sometime, not like saying hit on them. But, I'm usually friends with the gamers I game with. Because they're usually friends first and gamers second. And I tend to make friends of the gamers I game with. Because that's just, and I've literally gone out to find gamers to game with when other things were going on and I needed that outlet of gaming, and I went and found another group, and they become great friends for the most part. So it's just one of those things. Is treat them like a human being, and live your life. It's not like you're expected to do any huge dramatic thing necessarily, but include them in the fun stuff. Because look, I'm a single, older white guy, a geek. I don't always get to go out and do things because of my anxiety, unless I go with someone I know well, a friend. So I don't get to go see movies in the theater very often because I can't go. I need someone else there with me who understands that I have anxiety and tend to get anxious. I took one friend to a movie just because he wanted to see it and I wanted to see it. And we went really early in the day, and we were literally the only people in the theater. And I'm like, this is great. We have the theater to ourselves. I feel great. And it was a fun movie. So, there are little things that you can do. Sometimes they've cooked meals, especially for me because I can't eat everything that everybody else can eat. Because my friend, two of my friends love hot stuff. They love stuff on a scale, on the Scoville scale that I think would cause most other people like me to go blind from the sheer heat of the spices involved. And, they're like, this is mild, try it. And I'm tasting it, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little warm. And they're like, it doesn't have any spice in it. It doesn't, it's not even registered on the Scoville scale, And I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's the acid in it that I'm reacting to. I don't know. I just have a different reaction than other people. My mom is the same way, but my dad wasn't. My dad was like, oh, look, hot sauce, I can drink this. And it didn't matter how hot it was for him. Although he did apparently once find something hot enough at a restaurant when they were visiting a larger city that was too much for even him. Which I would have loved to have seen. Just to see his face, because there wasn't much that I knew that could impact him. But, and my friends are similar. So, they sometimes go out of the way and make a different meal for me that's not as spicy. And that's a lot of a thank you. It just is, because it shows that they care enough to make sure that I am fed, while they're feeding the group. And that's, another kind of thing that we do. Just, say thank you. I enjoyed it. This was what was the most fun part of it, if you want to break it down. And usually, because I have anxiety prone, if I don't get the reactions I'm expecting or wanting, sometimes I'll come back and go, did you have fun? And they'll say, oh yeah, I had lots of fun. And, it's the anxiety is making me, anxious over whether they enjoyed it or not, because for them it's not something they feel the need to say thank you over. And that's a different cultural thing, because I was raised to say, a lot more rigidly polite than a lot of people in my area. And we're Texans, we're generally polite, but there's some give and take, because the levels I was raised under is not near what some people were raised under. And I mean, in terms of severity, they're very, very polite. And then there's, some people who are just not, and none of their upbringing seems to have impacted them, because I know their upbringing, and I'm like, did you grow up with the parents I saw you growing up with? But I was raised a little rigidly to, say please and thank you and so on and so forth. And I think it confuses the people at some of the fast food restaurants. Because, they'll give me my total for a drink I bought, and I'll say thank you. And they're like, what? It was like, well, you gave me the total. You did your job. You did it quick. You did good. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's not like I have to go into detail, but they're young and they haven't been as exposed to it as I was, and I'm not that young. So, and it's really a different cultural experience, especially when I look at my eldest nephew and my eldest niece, and then the younger nephew and the younger niece, and that were my older sister and my younger sister's kids. And I see their kids growing up, and I'm like, wow, it's a very different thing, and it's really easy. Just thank you, or I appreciate it, or I had a fun time, or great game. Just keep it simple, or go wild and you give them gaming products. Because there are times when, I'd be happy for somebody to go buy me a role-playing game book and go, here, I bought this for you. And I'm like, oh, wow, thank you, I appreciate it. Although it's really weird is because that I occasionally have this anonymous donor who will buy something and send something to me, and they're not all from the same company. I've mentioned just somewhere online that I wanted it, and it shows up at my door, and I'm like, I have no idea who bought this, because it wasn't me. I got one of the Monster Manual reprints for 2nd edition D&D. I have no idea who sent that to me. None. And it came from Amazon, and Amazon doesn't have any information on that. Somebody just bought it off my wish list and sent it to me, and I'm like, okay, that's a nice thank you. I appreciate it. Whoever you are, if you're out there and you happen to see my video, thank you very, very much for it. I now have to get some other books, but I appreciate that. I see that as a thank you for something. I'm not even sure for what, but I appreciate it. I do. I'm very happy to have that book. I could mostly run 2nd edition D&D without the Monster Manual and without the DMG. I just need a player's handbook. But having the Monster Manual helps when I want to go back and revisit some things, because I'm getting old, my memory's not great. But those are different ways to thank a person for DMing you. A set of dice. I gave dice one year to one of my gaming groups simply because I could afford 7 people a set of dice, and so I did it. And I enjoyed playing with them, and I'm like, here's some dice, Merry Christmas, and Happy Holidays, and et cetera, et cetera. And it was just a thing. I don't do it often because I can't afford it often. But once in a while, I can scrape together, a little bit of money and do something nice for my friends. And that's my game group. It's one of my game groups. It's also another of my game groups. Although that one hasn't met recently, and it's kind of a shame. Mostly because of different things going on. And I was sick a couple of times. Anyway, but yeah, thank you. I enjoyed it. That's it. Anyway, I made a 20-minute video on one little subject, so we're cutting it here. And as usual, I rambled all the way through this. I may need to have to start writing a script. Then I can't read the script and do this because, it would either be on the screen or on another screen, and I'd be, okay, here's the script. It was very nice. Very nice seeing you, so to speak. Peace, good gaming. My other dog has something to say, apparently that's important. So, good night.